The child and the Empire's crime, the stars were calm that night. The colony ship, Hope's Dawn, drifted quietly near the edge of the Orion Belt, carrying families from Earth. Inside, children laughed. Mothers cooked simple meals, and fathers told stories of the new world they would soon call home. It was supposed to be a night of peace, but peace in the galaxy was fragile. The Galactic Empire watched every move Earth made, waiting for a reason to crush it. And that night, they decided to strike. Without warning, dark shapes appeared on the ship's scanners. Warships of the Empire slid out of hyperspace, their hulls shining cold and black. The crew of Hope's Dawn tried to send a message to Earth, but the signal was cut. Silence filled the control deck as the captain whispered, "They found you." The Empire didn't send a message. They didn't demand surrender. They simply opened fire. Explosions ripped through the hull. Families screamed as fire spread through the corridors. The soldiers of the Empire boarded, their armor heavy, their voices cruel. They didn't come for resources. They didn't come for technology. They came to make a statement. No one defies the Empire. Among the chaos, a young boy stood clutching a small stuffed toy, his eyes wide with fear. His parents begged the soldiers, falling to their knees, shouting, "Please, he's only a child." But the soldiers laughed. One of them raised his weapon. The sound of the shot echoed through the halls. The child fell. The stuffed toy dropped beside him. Stained red dot, everything went silent for a moment. Silent, except for the grief of a mother's scream that cut through the smoke and fire. The soldiers didn't stop. They pushed forward, leaving the broken family behind. To them, the boy was nothing, just another mark of fear to send across the stars. But they didn't understand what they had just done. They didn't know they had planted a seed of rage that would grow into a storm. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Survivors from Hope's Dawn escaped in life pods, drifting through space until a patrol ship from Mars found them. When Earth heard the story, every home, every street, every city fell into silence. The Council of Earth gathered in their great hall. Generals, diplomats, and leaders from across the human colonies listened as the survivor spoke. His voice shook as he told them about the Empire, about the slaughter, and about the boy. "They killed him," the man said, holding back tears. "He was only a child. He had no weapon, no threat, just a toy in his hands." The hall remained quiet. Not a single person moved. Then the chairman of the council rose. His face was pale, his voice heavy. "They think this will break us," he said slowly. "They think this will make us bow." His eyes burned with cold fury. "But they do not understand humanity. They do not understand what happens when you harm one of our children." The generals stood. Soldiers across Earth and the colonies clenched their fists. Mothers held their own children tighter that night. Something ancient stirred within humanity, a fire older than the stars, a fire that had burned since the first families walked the Earth. The Empire believed killing one child was nothing. But to humans, it was everything. Across the galaxy, whispers began. Other alien races, watching the balance of power, spoke in fear. The humans will rise. They will not let this pass. In the shadows of Earth's shipyards, massive machines began to awaken. Engines roared, weapons systems came online, fleets that had slept since the last war were called back into service. Humanity had always sought peace. But now peace was over. The Council made its final declaration, broadcast not only to the Empire, but to every starfaring race that would listen. "You killed our child. You killed our future. Now we will show you the cost of your crime." The Earth does not forgive. The Earth does not forget. And the Earth does not stop until justice is done. The message spread through every system, every station, every world. Aliens shivered as they heard it. They remembered the old stories, the ones told in hushed voices. Do not provoke humans. Do not touch what they protect. The Empire had laughed. At those stories, they thought humanity was weak. They thought Earth had forgotten war, but the blood of one child had awakened something terrible. And so the galaxy waited in fear as Earth began to move. A message from Earth, the stars, trembled with silence after the massacre of Hope's Dawn. Across the colonies, people whispered in anger, their voices rising like a storm. The Empire thought the crime would vanish into the dark void. They thought no one would dare speak against them. But Earth was not silent. At dawn, the Council of Earth stood in the Grand Assembly Hall, a place built after humanity's last great war. Every leader, every general, and every diplomat was present. The chamber was heavy with rage, yet no one spoke at first. The memory of the dead child hung in the air like smoke. Finally, a general broke the silence. His uniform was old but clean, his medals glinting faintly in the light. They killed a boy, he said in a low voice. Not a soldier, not a rebel, a boy. His voice cracked, but he did not stop. If we let this pass, then we are no better than slaves. If we bow now, then no human child is safe in this galaxy. They will think us weak. They will think they can do this again, and again, and again. The room shook with voices rising in agreement. Some pounded their fists on the tables. Some wept quietly. The chairman of the council, an old man with silver hair and eyes like steel, finally stood. The crowd fell silent. His voice was slow, measured, but each word carried like thunder. The Empire killed a child, he said. They wanted us to fear them. But they will soon learn that fear belongs to us. They will learn why the galaxy once whispered of humanity's wrath. He turned toward the broadcasting chamber. Send the message. Let them all hear it. The Empire, the colonies, the Council of Stars. Every world will know what comes next. The broadcast began. Across the galaxy, every screen, every comm station, every outpost flickered. Soldiers paused. Miners stopped their drills. Merchants froze in marketplaces. A face of Earth's chairman appeared, solemn and unyielding. People of the galaxy, he began, you have heard by now of the Empire's crime. They killed a human child. They thought it meant nothing. But to humanity, a child is everything. His words cut like a blade. In alien markets, people leaned closer to listen. On starships, crews stopped their work. The silence was heavier than space itself. You should understand this truth, the chairman continued. We are a patient people. We seek peace when we can. We forgive when we must. But there is one line you never cross. One law you cannot break. You do not harm our children. His voice deepened, his eyes blazing. You killed one of ours. For that, we will come for you. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And when we come, you will know what it means to face the fury of Earth. You will know what it means to face a people who never forget and never forgive. The broadcast ended, but the echo of his words did not fade. In the alien halls of power, leaders panicked. The Galactic Council, a gathering of many species, called an emergency meeting. Representatives shouted over each other. They are only humans, one snarled. Primitive, small in number. They will never stand against the Empire, another cried. But one old alien ambassador shook his head. His skin was pale, his voice trembling. You do not understand. I was there, long ago, when the humans fought the Great War. I saw what they did to the Dravic fleet. They do not fight for land. They do not fight for gold. They fight for family. And if you take that from them, there is no army in the galaxy that can save you. The room went silent. Fear crawled into every heart. Meanwhile, in the Empire's capital, the Emperor laughed when he heard the message. His throne hall echoed with his cruel voice. Humans think they can frighten me with words? He sneered. They are ants. Let them come. My fleets are endless. My armies cover 1,000 worlds. For every human ship, I have 100. For every soldier, 1,000. Let them come. His generals laughed with him, their armor clinking like chains. But none of them saw the shadow in the eyes of the lower officers, the fear that spread like a quiet disease. Because some of them remembered too. They remembered the wars humans had fought before. Back on Earth, the preparations had already begun. Shipyards in orbit glowed as massive engines roared back to life. Old carriers, hidden and silent for decades, were pulled from their docks. Factories shifted from civilian goods to weapons production. Soldiers drilled in the fields, their boots shaking the ground. But it wasn't just the armies. It was the people. Farmers volunteered their crops for the fleets. Families gave their savings for the cause. Children carried banners in the streets, chanting a single name, justice. One child had been killed. Now, billions were ready to fight. Far out on the edges of space, whispers spread like fire. Merchants spoke in fear. The humans are moving. Smugglers muttered in taverns. I heard Sol System is burning with war. Refugees carried tailies. They are building ships. Huge ships. Ships that block the stars. The galaxy held its breath, because everyone knew. The Empire had awakened something they could never put back to sleep. Fear across the stars. The broadcast from Earth spread faster than light. It echoed through every colony, every market, every outpost where a comms screen still flickered. One child's death had become the galaxy's most dangerous secret except. It was no secret anymore. Dot in the spaceports of the Valen Confederacy, merchants whispered nervously. The humans swore revenge, one trader muttered, his claws tapping against a metal table. I heard they're moving fleets already. Another shook his head. No, they are too weak. The Empire has crushed bigger threats before. Humanity will be broken before they even leave their system. But his voice lacked confidence. Everyone remembered the look in the human chairman's eyes during the message. That was not the gaze of weakness. That was the gaze of a predator. On the council of stars, chaos reigned. The chamber was filled with the sounds of alien voices, some sharp, some deep, some shrill, but all filled with fear. We must control this, shouted a reptilian ambassador. If humanity rises, the balance will collapse. They will bring war to every border. They are only a young race, another insisted, her voice trembling. The Empire is vast. They will fail. But an old voice broke through the noise. The YTHAR delegate, whose people had survived the last human war, spoke slowly. Do not fool yourselves. I saw them fight centuries ago. I saw their ships burn, yet still they fought. I saw their soldiers fall, yet they never retreated. Humanity does not measure war in numbers. They measure it in purpose. The chamber fell silent. Meanwhile, rumors grew wilder across neutral systems. Smugglers in shadowy taverns swore they had seen human dreadnoughts, massive warships with cannons longer than city streets, moving silently through deep space. Refugees whispered that Earth was building weapons that could tear planets in half. Most of these tales were lies, stretched and twisted by fear. But fear itself was the weapon. Fear spread faster than any ship. And everywhere it spread, the Empire's shadow seemed a little smaller, inside the Galactic Empire. However, the mood was different. In the Grand War Council chamber, Imperial generals laughed as they replayed Earth's broadcast. Do you see them? One said with a smirk. Their words are full of fire, but their fleets are nothing. A child was killed, and they believe it gives them power? Let them scream. Let them shout. They will be crushed beneath our boots. The Emperor himself leaned back on his golden throne, smiling with cold amusement. Fear is their weapon, he declared. But fear dies when faced with power. I will gather our fleets. I will summon every legion. And when humanity dares to rise, we will burn their world to ash. The generals roared in approval. To them, humans were ants throwing stones at a mountain. But far below the palace, in the barracks where ordinary soldiers trained, the laughter was quieter. Whispers moved between soldiers like shadows. Have you heard the old stories? They say humans fought the Dravik until their last breath. They say no army has ever truly broken them. Some soldiers laughed nervously. Some clenched their weapons tighter. None said it aloud, but the truth was clear. They were afraid. Back. On Earth, the reaction was nothing like fear. In crowded cities, in colony towns, in mining stations on distant moons, people stood together. Families who had never touched a weapon before signed up for training. Old veterans dusted off medals they had hidden in drawers, walking to recruitment centers with fire in their eyes. In shipyards above Mars, engines the size of skyscrapers thundered as massive carriers awoke from decades of silence. In the asteroid belt, hidden factories poured out railgun shells and fighter wings. Even the smallest colonies sent what they could: ore, food, fuel. Volunteers. One child's death had united billions. Across the galaxy, other races watched with growing dread. The Krenari, who lived on ocean worlds, debated abandoning trade with the Empire. The Solari, insectoid merchants, quietly redirected their shipping routes away from Imperial space. Even the proud Harak warlords, long loyal to the Empire, hesitated when they heard the chants echoing across Earth's cities. Justice for the child. Justice for humanity. The galaxy had seen wars before, but this was different. This was not a war for territory. This was not a war for profit. This was a war for blood, human blood, and everyone knew humanity would not stop until they had their revenge. Late one night, in a quiet corner of the council chambers, an alien diplomat whispered to his aide, "Do you understand what has happened?" The aide shook his head. "The Empire thinks it killed a child," the diplomat said, his voice dark. "But in truth, it has killed itself." The aide's eyes widened. "Why?" The diplomat's answer was soft, almost a whisper. "Because now, the humans are coming." The first Clash the Galaxy did not have to wait long. Barely 3 months after Earth's message spread, the first human fleets moved. They did not march proudly into the Empire's borders with banners waving. They came like shadows in the dark, silent, precise, unforgiving. The Empire's supply convoys were the first to vanish. A fleet of 30 cargo ships, protected by 10 Imperial war frigates, disappeared in the Kelros sector. Weeks later, a massive fuel depot in the Varney system exploded without warning, its flames seen from nearby moons. No survivors. At first, the Empire laughed. Bandits, they called the attacks. Pirates, rebels, not the humans. But the laughter ended when survivors crawled back from broken ships. They whispered the same words, trembling in fear. It was them. It was the humans. The first real battle came in the cold emptiness near the twin suns of Arcanus. The Empire had stationed a fleet of 70 warships there to guard their trade lines. Massive cruisers, fast destroyers, and squadrons of fighters formed a wall of power. Their admiral boasted, "No human ship will pass here. This is the heart of the Empire." But the humans were already there. From the shadow of an asteroid belt, human dreadnoughts emerged. Black steel, heavy armor, their hulls bristling with railguns and missile silos. They moved slowly, like predators stalking prey. Behind them, smaller strike craft shot forward, sleek and fast, their engines burning white. The Imperial admiral laughed when he saw them. Only 20 ships? They are mad. Crush them. The order went out. Imperial cannons roared. Hundreds of plasma bolts lit up the void. Explosions thundered across space. The human ships shook, but they did not retreat. Instead, their weapons came alive. Railguns fired with the force of mountains falling. The soundless thunder of slugs traveling at near light speed tore through Imperial cruisers, ripping them apart like paper. Missiles streaked across the stars, breaking through shields and detonating in white fire. One human dreadnought took 3 direct hits to its hull, but it kept moving forward, guns blazing. The Imperial admiral shouted for his fleet to hold the line, but panic spread, because the humans did not fight like anyone else. They didn't spread out. They didn't retreat when pressed. They fought as if every ship was a shield for the others. They fought as if they were one single being. On the bridge of the human flagship, Captain Elias Vorn stood tall, his face lit by the glow of battle. Around him, his officers moved with calm precision. "They have more ships than us," one officer warned. Vorn's voice was steady. "We don't need more ships. We need more resolve." The officer nodded. Every human on that bridge knew why they were there. Not for power, not for conquest. They were there for a child whose life had been stolen. "Target their command ship," Vorn ordered. Moments later, a railgun slug tore through the Imperial flagship, ripping it in half. The admiral's laughter died with him. Across the Empire, the shockwave spread. Reports of the Arcanist battle hit the council chambers like fire. 70 ships destroyed or scattered. 20 human ships lost only 4. Alien ambassadors stared at one another in silence. The whispers grew louder. "They cannot be stopped." Meanwhile, Earth celebrated not with cheers, but with grim silence. Families watched the reports in crowded halls, their faces hard with resolve. The message was clear. Humanity had drawn blood, and this was only the beginning. But the Empire did not yield. The Emperor slammed his fist on his throne when he heard the news. "They dare? They dare defy me?" His voice was filled with rage, but beneath the rage was fear. "Summon the Grand Armada," he commanded. "Every fleet, every legion. I will crush them so completely that the galaxy will forget the word human." Orders spread across the Empire. Shipyards worked without rest. Billions of soldiers marched. The sky above every Imperial world filled with the fire of war. But for every fleet the Empire built, the humans were already preparing something else, something darker, something older, something the galaxy had forgotten. Back on Earth, Captain Vorn stood on the deck of his ship, staring into the endless stars. His crew was weary, but unbroken. "They will come with everything they have," his first officer said quietly. Vorn nodded. "Good. Let them." His voice was like steel. "They believe numbers will save them. They believe fear will protect them. But we are not fighting for numbers. We are not fighting for glory. We are fighting for the memory of a child. And that is a fire they cannot put out." The stars outside were silent, but it felt as if the galaxy itself was listening. Humanity's true power, the Empire, did not rest after Arcanus. Across 1,000 worlds, factories thundered day and night. Shipyards built new cruisers, carriers, and destroyers in endless rows. Billions of soldiers were armed, armored, and drilled until their bodies broke. The Emperor demanded everything. "This time," he declared to his generals, "we will not face 20 ships. We will face the whole of their kind. And when it is over, there will be no humans left to threaten us." The galaxy trembled as the news spread. The Grand Armada was gathering. The Armada was unlike anything seen in centuries. Thousands of ships filled the void around the Empire's core world. Cruisers and battleships lined up in endless walls of steel. Carriers released wave after wave of fighters in practice drills. The sky above the capital burned with the light of engines. The Imperial Admiral who commanded it stood tall in his polished armor. "The humans struck a single fleet," he said coldly. "We will strike their heart. We will burn Earth itself." But while the Empire prepared, so did humanity. On the dark side of the moon, hidden shipyards, long thought abandoned, came alive. In the depths of the asteroid belt, secret dry docks opened, revealing war machines the galaxy had not seen in generations. They were colossal ships, supercarriers that dwarfed even the largest Imperial battleships. Their shadows could swallow entire fleets. Alongside them were railguns mounted on platforms the size of cities, capable of firing slugs with the force of meteor strikes. The humans had not forgotten their old weapons. They had only hidden them. Now they returned, silent and ready. When the Grand Armada finally launched, it was like a storm of fire crossing the stars. Thousands of ships moved in formation, their weapons ready to crush Sol System once and for all. The Empire believed victory was certain, but humanity had prepared a welcome. The first clash came in the empty void near the Sirius Gate, a strategic jump point on the path to Earth. The Empire sent 200 ships through the gate. They expected no resistance. But as the first wave arrived, the darkness lit up with streaks of fire. Railgun platforms, hidden in the asteroid field, opened fire. Slugs the size of houses tore through shields and armor. Entire destroyers shattered in a single hit. Dozens of ships exploded before they even formed a line. The survivors tried to retreat back through the gate, but human stealth carriers were waiting. From the shadows, they unleashed swarms of bombers, tearing into the fleeing ships. Not a single Imperial vessel survived the ambush. Panic spread through the Armada. The Admiral growled in anger, so they had tricks. But tricks will not win. A war, send the main fleet. And so the Armada advanced not in the next sector. Hundreds of ships clashed with Earth's defense fleets. Plasma and fire streaked across the void. Human carriers released waves of fighters. Imperial destroyers pushed forward, forcing brutal close-range battles. It was chaos. Ships burned, engines shattered, crews screamed into broken cones. And still, the humans did not retreat. On the bridge of the human flagship Resolute, Captain Elias Vorn stood with calm eyes. His crew reported losses, but he did not flinch. "They think numbers will break us," his first officer said. "They don't understand," Vorn replied. "We fight for more than numbers. We fight for what they can never take from us." He gave the order, "Bring in the Leviathan." From the far side of the battlefield, space itself seemed to darken. Out of the void emerged a human supercarrier, so massive that even the Empire's largest ships looked small beside it. Its hull blocked out the stars. Its weapons glowed with terrible light. The Imperial fleet froze. For the first time, their commanders hesitated. The Leviathan fired. A single railgun blast ripped through 6 cruisers in a line, cutting them apart as if they were made of glass. Missile storms followed, filling the void with fire. Fighters poured from its bays like a swarm of hornets, overwhelming Imperial defenses. The Armada faltered. Alien observers across the galaxy watched the reports in silence. The humans had shown their true strength, and it was greater than anyone imagined. The old whispers came alive again. "Do not anger Earth. They keep weapons the stars themselves fear." The Empire tried to rally. More ships surged forward. More fighters swarmed. The battle raged on, flames consuming everything. But for every ship the humans lost, the Empire lost 10. For every fighter that fell, 10 more rose. The humans did not fight for territory. They did not fight for conquest. They fought with a fury, born from grief. And grief had made them unstoppable. At the height of the battle, Captain Vorn's voice echoed through the comms to every human ship. They thought one child's death meant nothing. Show them what it has cost. Show them what it means to fight humanity when we are united. The fleets roared in response. The Empire had unleashed its grand armada. And still, the humans stood unbroken dot by the battle's end, the void near. Sirius burned with wreckage. Thousands of Imperial ships were gone. Humanity had shown the galaxy a power the Empire could not match. And deep within the Emperor's palace, for the first time, true fear entered his heart. The Empire breaks. Grand Armada was shattered. Wreckage floated like broken bones across the void near Sirius. Thousands of Imperial ships burned silently in space, their crews gone, their power broken. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had lost more than a battle. It had lost its pride. The Emperor raged in his golden throne room. His voice echoed through the palace like thunder. Billions of credits wasted, thousands of ships destroyed, and by who? His hands shook with fury. By a race of weaklings, by the dirt-born humans. His generals bowed, trembling. None dared remind him that the humans were not weak not anymore. Across the Empire, whispers turned into rebellion. On the mining world of Carthus, slaves rose. Against their overseers, chanting, "Humanity fights for the children, we fight for ours." On the icy colonies of Brevak, soldiers deserted, abandoning the Empire's banners. Even in the core systems, riots spread as people shouted in the Yo. Streets, if the Empire cannot stop the humans, then the Empire cannot protect us. Fear was no longer the weapon of the Empire. It was the weapon of Earth. The Council of Stars watched the chaos with wide eyes. Alien ambassadors spoke in hushed tones. "The Empire is breaking," one said. "The humans are doing what no one has done before," whispered another. "But at what cost?" A third asked. No one answered. Because they all knew the truth. If humanity wanted vengeance, nothing would stop them. Human fleets advanced system by system, striking fast, striking hard. Railguns silenced orbital stations. Supercarriers unleashed swarms of fighters. Everywhere the humans went, the Empire's banners fell. On the flagship Resolute, Captain Elias Vorn studied the reports with a grim face. "Their defenses crumble faster each day," his first officer said. "Soon, nothing will stand between us and their capital." Vorn's eyes were cold. "Then we keep moving. No hesitation, no mercy." He paused, then added, "Not until they understand what it cost to kill a child." The Emperor grew desperate. He ordered new fleets built in record time. He sent messages to old allies, begging for reinforcements. He even promised rewards to mercenaries across the stars. But fewer and fewer answered his calls, because everyone saw the same thing. The Empire was dying. Even his own soldiers began to doubt. Whispers ran through the barracks. What if we cannot win? What if the humans are right? Some dropped their weapons. Others fled before battles even began. And the humans pressed harder. At last, Earth's fleets reached the Empire's heart. The capital world of Zyphor was a jewel of the galaxy. Vast cities stretched across continents. Towers of gold and crystal pierced the sky. Billions lived under the shadow of the Emperor's palace. It had never been attacked. Not once. Until now. When the first human warships entered orbit, the people of Zyphor looked up in fear. The sky darkened as the Leviathan supercarrier appeared, its massive hull blotting out the sun. Smaller dreadnoughts moved into formation, railguns primed, missiles armed. The humans had come to the throne itself. In the palace, the Emperor's advisors begged him to surrender. "They have broken every fleet we sent," one cried. "Your people riot in the streets," shouted another. "If you do not stop this war, there will be no Empire left." But the Emperor's pride was greater than his fear. He stood on his balcony, staring at the human fleet above. His voice was bitter, filled with venom. I will not bow to them, not to humans, not ever. Then came the final message. It was transmitted from the flagship Resolute to the entire planet. Every citizen, every soldier, every official heard the words of Captain Vorn. People of the Empire, hear me. We did not come to conquer you. We did not come for your worlds or your wealth. We came for justice. You killed a child who carried nothing but a toy in his hands. For that crime, your rulers thought there would be no cost. But here we stand, above your throne, to show the galaxy what it means to harm one of our own. The word spread like wildfire. Across the capital, the people began to cry out. Some shouted in anger at their emperor. Others cheered for the humans. The streets filled with chaos. The emperor tried to give the order to fire on the human fleet. But his own officers hesitated. Some refused. Others turned their weapons on his loyal guards. The rebellion had reached his throne. For the first time, the emperor was truly alone. From the flagship, Captain Vorn gave his final command. Surround the palace. Let them see our strength. And let them know the age of the Empire ends today. Above, the capital world, the skies burned with the power of Earth's fleet. The Empire, once mighty and untouchable, stood on the edge of collapse. And in that moment, the galaxy understood a new truth. The humans had not just come for vengeance. They had come to reshape the stars. The price of one child, the skies above. Zyphor burned. Human ships floated in formation, their shadows covering the capital world. Railguns stood ready. Carriers released fighters that circled like hawks above prey. The Leviathan supercarrier, vast as a continent, loomed directly over the Emperor's golden palace. For the first time in history, the Empire's heart was under siege. On the streets below, the people of Zyphor panicked. Some fled into underground shelters. Others stood and stared at the sky in silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Many shouted in anger, not at the humans, but at their own emperor. They brought this upon us. One woman cried. They killed a child, and now the galaxy burns. Another shouted. The rebellion had reached the capital. Riots tore through the markets. Imperial banners were ripped down. Soldiers dropped their weapons and disappeared into the crowds. The Empire was breaking not from outside, but from within. Inside the palace, the Emperor stood trembling before his throne. His once proud armor was dented, his golden crown crooked on his head. He shouted at his remaining guards, but fewer listened with each passing moment. Fight them! Hold the palace! Humanity will not take what is mine. But even as he spoke, explosions shook the city outside. Human fighters streaked across the skies, disabling orbital defenses one by one. Railgun fire lit up the atmosphere, striking Imperial fortresses with thunderous precision. The humans had not come to bargain. They had come to end it. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elias Vorn stood at the command console. His eyes were hard, his voice steady. Target the palace shields, he ordered. Moments later, beams of energy tore through the Emperor's last defenses. The shields flickered, then collapsed. The golden palace was left naked beneath the cold shadow of Earth's fleet. Open channel, Vorn commanded. His image appeared across the city, across the palace, across every screen in the Empire. His voice rang out with iron weight. People of the Empire, humanity did not choose this war. We did not choose to fight. But your rulers chose to kill a child. They thought it meant nothing. Today, you see what it has cost them. He leaned forward, his eyes blazing. Remember this? Earth will not be broken. Harm one of ours, and we will come for you all. This is the price of one child. The people erupted. Some cried in relief. Others cheered. The Emperor, pale with fear, turned. to his guards, but half of them had already fled. The others dropped their weapons. Their eyes filled not with loyalty, but with shame. The throne room doors shook as explosions echoed outside. Human ground forces had landed. Their boots marched closer, steady, unstoppable. The Emperor screamed, "I am the Empire. I am eternal." The doors burst open. Human soldiers entered, their armor black, their rifles steady. Behind them walked Captain Vorn himself. The room fell silent, except for the crackle of fire outside. The Emperor raised his trembling hand. "You cannot." Vorn's voice cut him off. Cold, sharp, final. "You killed a child." One shot rang. Out the Emperor fell. The war was over. Weeks later, the galaxy was silent. The Empire's banners were torn down. Its fleets were scattered. Its throne lay empty. Across its 1,000 worlds, new voices rose, voices of freedom, voices of rebellion, voices that no longer feared the shadow of the Empire. And through it all, one truth was whispered again and again. It ended because of a child. On Earth, the people mourned the boy whose life had been stolen. Statues were raised in his memory, not as a symbol of victory, but as a reminder of why they fought. His name was spoken in every colony, in every hall, in every ship. The Council declared, this war was not for conquest. It was for justice. Let the galaxy remember, if even one human child is harmed, Earth will answer. In the far reaches of the galaxy, alien races shivered. Some feared humanity more than ever. Others respected them. But all understood the same truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not to be mocked. Humanity would fight for their children with the fury of 1,000 suns. On the deck of the Resolute, Captain Vorn stood watching the stars. His crew was silent, their eyes filled with exhaustion and sorrow. Victory had come, but at a cost written. In blood and fire, Vorn spoke quietly, almost to himself. One child, he whispered. That's all it took to doom an empire. The stars did not answer. But somewhere, deep in the silence of space, it felt as though the galaxy itself remembered. Final line for narration impact. Empires may rise and fall, but never forget harm. Even one human child, and you will awaken the wrath of Earth.